I recently took USMLE Step 1 and I passed. So grateful to God for that. And today I'm going to be giving you a breakdown of my timeline preparing for this exam. And one of the things I would say is that this exam takes a lot of time. If you really want to take your, you should take your time in preparing for this exam. So the thing is, my school have like about two exams that we have to take to exit the second year and start the third year, or before we can write step one. So for me, I was going to do that sometimes around, I think, November, October, November, anyways, last year. And I was like preparing for that. And it's the same level as like step one. So practically what I was doing was preparing for step one, like a bigger goal of like preparing for step one while I was preparing for that exam. So I took about a full month to actually prepare for that exam. And I was using UWorld, I was using first aid, and I was doing some YouTube videos. At some point when I got tired, and some Anki cards as well. So I was doing Anki. I was making my own Anki questions from the ones that I was missing, or from the topics that I was really seeing that I was really having a hard time understanding the concept. So I made Anki cards for myself, and eventually I made so much, too much to say. And so when I was doing this, I was so three major resources: UWorld, first aid, Anki cards, and then YouTube video, four of them like that. So one of the things that I did was, when I was watching the YouTube videos, I took notes. I was very active with my YouTube videos, watching and taking notes and making sure that I understand the concept. For me at that point, it was more about really understanding the concept. And at that particular point in time, I have not even booked my USMLE Step 1 exam. So it was out of sight for me, but at the same time, I have it in my mind that that's what I was preparing for, even though I was preparing for my school exam. So fast forward to November, I took my school exam, and no, I took the pre-exit, which I was in it's called something in my 60s, and in the 60s, I mean, and then I took the exit, which was the final exam, and I scored 75, and the pass mark was 70. So for my school, for you to pass, you have to score 70. So I was like excited, but at the same time, I was still like, I don't know what USMLE Step 1 is going to look like, especially since my UWorld scores are not really help there. Honestly, I took my chance really going for my school exam because my UWorld score at that particular point in time was still in the 50s. So anyways, I took some time off in December, and then in January I was like, okay, I'm giving it my all here. And I was studying, and sometimes in February I started feeling like I think I'm ready for this exam, because there was one day that I scored 75 and 72 on my U in my U word, like the same day. Like I did 80 questions, 40 questions each, and I two blocks of 40 questions, and I scored seven, like in my 70. I'm like, oh, okay, yeah, this is exciting. But anyways, I transitioned into MBME, and in my MBME, I transitioned into MBME about 2 months before. So I booked my exam sometimes in January or February. I can't really remember again. Anyway, so and I was waiting for the scheduling permits, which the scheduling permits probably came up. Eventually was ready sometimes in February, I think. And that's when I booked my exam, my USMLE exam for April. Even though initially I had wanted to write this exam February, but I ended up writing it in April. Anyway, so I moved into using MBMA practice questions, and I did almost all the MBMA practice exam. Not all of them, but like the newer ones. So I noticed that the first time that I did MBMA, I think I got 55 or thereabout. So no, actually did two MBMA that my school actually paid for two MBMA for me. So I did two, and my scores was like in the 50s. One was like 55, and then the other one was like even less than 55, maybe around 52 or there, but I can't remember again. And then of course my school at that particular point in time was like, okay, we need to talk. So I was like, oh, well, I'm just getting stressed kind of thing. And so I went ahead and I went fully into just using MBMA at that particular point to prepare for USMLE Step 1. So I was doing MBMA after MBMA, but I was taking my time to do them. So I take like a whole day to like review one MBMA. Like I would like even take 2 days to review after taking it. So I think eventually my score was like 61 after like I have really reviewed the two that my school paid for, and then I have like gone back to study even much more. So my score was like 61, and I was like, okay, okay, that's like, and then from the indicator, it was like, yeah, you have the chance of passing, like a high chance of passing. I think it says like my chance was like 60%. I can't really remember. Um, but after that, I reviewed everything, prepared more again, and then I took another MBMA practice exam and I scored 71. And at that particular point in time, I was very excited and I quickly went ahead and I took another MBMA exam and I scored um, 65%. Hey, and to me, I'm like, I'm not gonna shake him because I've heard that your score can vary, but I just don't want it to really fall below mid 60s. Yeah, I felt like that's when I was starting to panic, anyways. So after that, I think I took another one and it was like 64, and I started to panic, and I'm like, oh, what's gonna happen, and all of that. So I went ahead and I took the new free 120, and I scored 73 in that one. So for me, I was like, okay, this is not terrible. I think I'm really ready for this exam. So it was my free 120 that I scored 73 that made me not cancel my exam, because I was already thinking when I scored for the 64 that in the last MPME that I'm going to cancel it. But when I scored 73 in my free 120, I was like, actually, I don't need to cancel this exam. I'm just going to face it and I'll do it. And then I went for the exam. Halfway through the exam, oh my God, I felt like I was gonna fail, honestly, because I there was a lot of wonky, weird, vague questions that I got, and I don't know, maybe those were like the experimental questions that, because they were like, they said there will be 80 experimental questions on the exam. So I don't know, like I just halfway through the exam, I just felt like I failed. I was just like, okay, that's it, I failed. But at the same time, I'm not just going to be a failure that did not finish the exam. So I decided to stay to finish the exam. So I finished the exam and I just went on feeling so sad. I don't know. I think I recorded some video how I felt, but I don't know if I really did. But anyways, 2 weeks later, I was not even expecting the exam because I had like a little technical difficulty that I complained about, and they were like gonna investigate that, and they already told me that that's gonna take long, like be like, I think, I can't remember, maybe 30 business days, they said. So in my head, I was like, yeah, the result is not going to come out unless until they are done with all that. But exactly 2 weeks after my exam, um, lo and behold, the result came out and I passed. And I was like, oh, wow. So yeah, what I would say is that stick to the resources that you have, honestly, and trust yourself on this journey. And also, one of the things I would say is that do not, once you're done with your first 2 years of medical school and you're preparing for USMLE step one, don't spend too much time doing passive reading and watching videos like a lot like that. I would say spend more time in practice questions like the U word or AMBERS or maybe MBME. Like honestly, spend more time in those, because that's where your score is going to jump up, and that's where you're also going to understand um, and acquire test taking skills, because that's really one of the things that will happen. You transition from just knowing a lot of things to being able to take tests, being able to take this board exam. You will also be able to understand the pattern. You learn pattern recognition and pay attention to the histological emails, or like all those histology images that let's say, images that they put in the questions. Pay attention to them, especially the MBMA. Pay attention to all those images that they give you, all those histology. Pay attention to them, because I found out that some of them came out in my exam. So you really want to pay attention to that.